Sir, my name is Tandava. I am from NIT Rourkela, Orissa, BTech Electronics. Sir, my question is regarding...
You are Telugu speaking or you are
Telugu,
speaking?
sir. Sir, regarding the continuation of it, the goal setting of Indian policies, and that we generally go for more idealistic policies rather than realistic. For instance, agriculture sector, when we say we want doubling of farmers' income, but hardly there is 20% increase when corrected to inflation. Or in forest, when we see we want a forest growth 33% based on forest policy, but in this now there is 23, and I don't think next 2-3 decades it will increase because the urbanization happening, the development scenario across. Not only healthy indicators or whatever it's, we are going more idealistic than having a practical and rational approach. And why the public policy is going in this direction? But means even the reason we have a renewable energy targets of 40% by 2030, but hardly there is 15%, and I don't think it will be coming to 30%, 35%. So the public policy is more idealistic. Do you have any issues with the goal setting in Indian context, sir?
Again, a very complex question. There are several layers in that question. We make a fantastic declaration of intent, we think it is policy. Declaration of intent is not policy. A lot of the problem stems from this notion that no, this is the target I give, therefore this is a policy. A policy not only declares a attainable, realistic target, a goal. A goal is necessary, but it actually creates institutional mechanisms. The institutions have two objectives. The first is the capacity to deliver. It may be human resources, it may be money, it may be technology or equipment or whatever. You require first the ability to deliver. Otherwise, it becomes merely a pompous statement. But that's not enough. If that alone is sufficient, then the world would be heaven. Oftentimes, no matter how much money you pump into a system or how much of human resource power you pump into the system, nothing much happens. The second is a far more important thing. The institutions alter incentives for all the players. It may be the citizen, it may be the bureaucrat, it may be somebody else. And altered incentives alter behavior. Altered behavior alters outcomes. One is the state capacity. I can't make a statement that every child must be in school, and that's easy. But every child must get quality education, meaningful education. That's a tough goal. But that's a necessary goal. You have to have that goal. But making that goal is not enough. And building schools is not enough. That is the physical part of it. More teachers, that's what we are doing in India. Education, school education is a good case study. We are putting more money into it. Per child in government schools, on an average, we are spending 70 to 80,000 rupees per year. It's not a small amount. Grade 1, grade 2, primary school, secondary school, Andhra Pradesh is spending 90,000 rupees per year, per child. So the first part they are trying, more classrooms, more teachers, more this, more that, more compound walls, more bathrooms and more expenditure. But our education is third rate. So even if that element of it is there, the state capacity is built, it's not working. The real issue is, what are the altered incentives? Incentives for the teacher, for the student, for the management, for the educator, for everybody in the system to alter their behavior and therefore to alter their outcomes. You mentioned one or two cases of policy. Agriculture. In cases like agriculture, it's foolish even to have a target in the first place. Because agriculture is not done by the government. Education theoretically is done by the government. Therefore, your having a target is understandable. But agriculture is not done by the government. It's done by us. The government can facilitate, can encourage, can support, can incentivize. But government cannot force us to do agriculture, cannot force us to improve the productivity, cannot guarantee incomes. It's an absurd notion. So there even the objective is wrong. Even saying that in 5 years I will enhance the income of the farmers, double it, is a bad, it's a political objective, just to play to the galleries. Well intentioned, I have no quarrel with that. Instead, the right approach is I will make sure that a minimum income is available to farmers by a variety of means, from price support to social security to market-oriented mechanisms to guarantee price discovery. And I will encourage investment and growth and therefore higher incomes in agriculture by a series of policies which will in turn alter the incentives and therefore behavior and therefore outcomes. That is the right policy in agriculture. The 3 farm laws are a part of that. They don't guarantee anything, but they guarantee entry of players. They guarantee competition. They guarantee an incentive for productivity. They guarantee compression of the market chain eventually. Once they happen, the chances are that that will lead to greater growth and greater income. They also help in value addition. And hopefully, if all works out well, they will also penetrate the global markets. So instead of saying this is what we'll accomplish, this is what we do in order for you to have an incentive to accomplish this. There's a difference between the two. That is agriculture. You mentioned 1 or 2 other policies. Which are those?
Environment. Environment, we have renewable targets of 2030 by 40%, but it won't be in forest or 33%.
No, it's okay. See, you may not achieve, but India is definitely going in that direction. If the government does not push, and it's again, it's not declaration of intent, the incentive structure you create. For instance, you guarantee net metering. I myself have a 6 kilowatt or 5 kilowatt solar power in my home. Why did I go for that? If there is no net metering, I would not have gone for that. What is net metering? The daytime I produce more than my consumption needs, but night time how am I going to meet that? I cannot store all that. I probably produce about 30 kilowatt hours a day, and to have a 30 kilowatt hour battery, it will cost me some 8 lakhs or 10 lakh rupees or more. It's not viable. And even the storage space, etc. is a problem. But I bank the power with the electricity grid, and night time they supply me. Then it's worthwhile for me. I have the satisfaction of producing clean energy. I have the assurance that I have 24-hour power availability. I store 2-3 kilowatt hours. So the policy created an incentive for me to go for that. But if they declare an intent and say, it's good for environment, all of you go for solar power. Night time, I don't know what I'll do, but it's to hell with you. And if you overproduce more than your requirement at a point of time, because diurnal variation is inevitable in renewable power, right? And therefore that's your problem. Then why am I going to go for that? So the percentage part is okay. At least they must test themselves, are we going in the direction we need to do something more. But the real issue is not that in the policy. It's not the goal in terms of a target. It's about what the government is doing. For instance, solar power plants, initially they gave a slightly higher tariff than today. As the costs came down, the tariffs now are lower when the government purchases, because on large scale you cannot consume, you have to sell to the government or the government utilities. For instance, they gave some tax concessions, depreciation elements and so on and so forth. Therefore, if I make an assessment as an investor, if I invest that money in the bank, supposing I get 6% return, suppose I am getting 7.5% here, is worthwhile for me. So they are ensuring that that is the incentive structure. And that attracts investment, that encourages people to go, apart from the general good feeling. I use an electric car because I don't want fossil fuel. But you can't go by the good feeling alone in policy. So what did they do in electric cars? There is no registration fee. And they have, I think, substantially given some concessions in terms of the batteries. Otherwise, the cost of the car, even now it is higher than the a similar car which is petrol driven. But it would have gone much higher. Therefore, the chances of me buying an electric car would have been much less. So government is about creating incentives which alter behavior, which alter outcomes. Target matters to give a general sense of direction. But if the target is not controlled by the government, then targets are not important. But if the government can actually, to some extent, influence the targets, then target is important. But more than the target, the real issue is not the declaration of intent, but the incentive structure and altered behavior, altered outcomes. In education, our target itself is bad. Everybody will be in school. We never bother about everybody will get education. These are two different expressions. Everybody in India is in school. Almost nobody gets education. And I'm not exaggerating. So it's a bad target in the first place. The 2009 Right to Education Act is a stupid law. It's bunkum. So at least now the national education policy is a little more sensible. But it doesn't mean that it will happen automatically because there are so many players involved. Incentive structure, we have to get it right, and all of us must own the enterprise because it's a very vast thing, 260 million kids in schools in India. It's a mega project for the country. So, first of all, what is a policy we must understand. And the failures largely are because of this. But wherever they got it right, we did very well. In just a few years' time, India became self-sufficient in food. Our whole green revolution in the 70s and early 80s, it happened in just a few years' time. Until that time, we were shipped to mouth. One monsoon fails and suddenly India is on the verge of starvation. For the past 20, 30 years, that's not a problem at all. It worked. So not every policy has failed. Andhra Pradesh has now started the family doctor concept, well-meaning. They're taking care of the supply issues. It will fail spectacularly because incentive structure is not altered. The government's intentions, I don't doubt. They're well-meaning. They're putting a lot of money. But it will fail. Because they only took care of one. Put in the resources. But they have not addressed the real challenge. How do you make it work? Just because our teachers doesn't mean that there is teaching. We have all the teachers in the world. For every 16 kids, there is a teacher in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. You can't get better than that. Teachers are very well paid. I don't know if you're aware. That's not the problem. But education stinks. So governments are faltering because A, they don't understand when to set a goal, when not to set a goal. They think capacity building, if at all they do it, oftentimes they don't do that also. When they do it, they think that will deliver automatically. Somehow something will happen, you put something will come out, hopefully. They have no understanding of incentive structure. Incentive structure for those in government and for the people at large. Ultimately, it's the people who get the benefit by changing that. For instance, unless I am incentivized, incentive does not mean money. Unless I feel, yes, I must get a booster dose of vaccine. Unless I feel it's to my advantage to do something. Now, all the pronouncements of the Prime Minister or the Health Minister, will they improve the health if all of us say we don't want vaccines? So, incentives are much more complicated than government's declaration and even creating the infrastructure. But wherever they have done right, we achieved good results. Okay?
Sir, my name is Akshit. I'm from Warangal. I've done my civil engineering from BITS Pilani, Rajasthan. My option is anthropology, sir. My doubt is regarding criminalization of politics. It is the judiciary which so far has taken certain steps, but it is the playground of legislature to make laws against criminalization of politics. Unfortunately, with every election, the number of people with criminal backgrounds entering the legislature is more. How to come out of this loop-like situation?
Okay, what do you think?
Change should come from the people. That is what I think.
That's a very happy way of abdicating all responsibility. Any problem in the country, क्या कर सकते हैं? बेकार है जनता. People don't know. They are fools. Therefore, I can do nothing about it. I am very pious. I made my statement. I fulminated in drawing rooms. And I can abdicate because it's not in my hands. So this people must change is the worst possible response in any system. But it's a very nice response. Very pious response. I'm a very good guy, you see. People have not changed. Don't fall for that. It's a stupid response. Let me be blunt. It's a very convenient way of abdicating. People of India did not ask for democracy. Did the people of India shout for democracy in 1947 or before that? Is there any evidence of that? Who gave them democracy? The elites of India gave them democracy because they felt, they had a certain vision. They felt, they gave democracy. Now, what right do you have to blame the people if democracy is not operating well? You have not designed it well. You have not run it well, and you blame the people. What more do people want to do? They are paying taxes. They are by and large abiding by law. They are very fearful of authority, very compliant, obedient. When in a stupid moment, the Prime Minister, like a Sultan, declared that all notes are illegal tender, people suffered, but now nobody complained because they felt, bichare, he meant well. Kuch karne chahta hai na, doesn't matter if we suffer. What more do you want from people? You want people to jump off a cliff? So blaming people, particularly in India, is a stupid response. And it's an untrue response. It's a hypocritical response. On the whole, the problem is not with the people. I'm not saying people are wise or smart, no. I'm saying people are people. And as people go, our people are much better than most other people. Why do you think there is so much of peace and order in our society? Because of government? Because of courts? Because of rule of law? Because of people. So be intolerant of this nonsense about people must do better. If the people do better on their own, why the hell do you have governments? Why do you have taxes? Why do you have elections? Why do you have such vast infrastructure and bureaucracy? Why? When you want to go into criminalization, you understand first 4 issues. The first issue is, you think so-and-so is a criminal. I come out of the list, ADR comes out of the list, somebody comes out of the list. But is the society treating them as bad people? The people you regard as criminals, are they always treated by society as bad people? Is it because society is immoral or immoral? Why? First question.
Even if they are criminals, sometimes they are able to deliver what the state cannot deliver.
The criminals often are the undeclared judges in a society where there is no justice. They settle disputes for a price, they do something else. There's somebody available and accessible delivering justice in a country where there's no hope of justice through formal channels. It's a complete breakdown of rule of law. You're calling him a criminal, but even you and I are forced to go to them if there's a problem locally, because there's no other recourse available. Fix that first. Second, a criminal, because there's no rule of law in the society and there's a value for his services, is making money and is becoming influential. Why should you enter into politics? Because the moment you enter into politics, our friend says is the criminal is in politics. They're facing criticism, they're facing public opprobrium. Why are they entering politics? What is the incentive for them? Come on.
So, to protect the laws convenient for them. To make the laws convenient for them.
Making the law, nobody cares in India. If you think our MLAs, MPs want to make laws, you're completely mistaken. That's irrelevant. The legislatures, one function they never deliver is making laws.
Which is convenient to them.
It doesn't go that far. They control the police who are supposed to control the criminals. The moment you are a politician and an elected politician, the police who should be able to hold you to account, irrespective of your station, in our country are completely controlled by you. It makes tremendous smart sense to enter politics and control the police who otherwise would control you. In other countries, you may be president of the country, you may be governor of a state, you may be something else. You cannot control the police and crime investigation. In India, we created a situation where there is no rule of law. Might is right. Badito nodde barre. Let's fix that. Third one. You cannot say all the party leaders are crooks. They may act in a crooked way on occasion. But it's very difficult to argue that Narendra Modi, Manmohan Singh, Sonia Gandhi, KCR, Chandrababu Naidu, Jagan, Stalin, they're all crooked fellows, therefore they want criminals as candidates. Why are they putting them up as candidates?
Winnability.
Winnability. You have an electoral system where once you have money, a successful criminal by definition has money, unaccounted money. 2, he has organization, unless he has a big gang which says, boss, we'll do whatever you want me to do. That networking and organization. And 3, there is no criminal who entered politics without styling himself as the leader of a caste or a community. Every successful criminal who had made a political entry refashioned himself as a caste leader or a community leader. Once you have money, organization, and a caste or community tag, that's when winnability comes in our system. If supposing other factors of honest behavior, moral conduct, competence, intelligence, leadership qualities, past record of service to the public, they are winnable, they would happily put them up as candidates. They are not winnable. Therefore, they are sent to the parliament even if when they need them through Rajya Sabha. Right or wrong? So, electoral system. We created a horrid electoral system unsuited to our conditions. And finally, why are people voting? Do you think they don't know if somebody has a criminal record? Why are they voting? We have a moribund system, dysfunctional system where if you go through due process, chances are nothing gets done. At least something gets done, some illusion of some accomplishment. If somebody is browbeating others, say, I'll beat the hell out of you, do it or else. And a gunda will do it much better than you and I. Therefore, people feel on balance, if everything is equal, this fellow can deliver better. Without addressing them, we moralize, we pontificate, we breastbeat, and nothing happens. You have to address all these 4. In particular, change the electoral system right away. Everything can't be done overnight. If we change the electoral system from the first pass to something more suitable to our conditions, I can guarantee you a significant amount of criminalization of politics will decline. And over time, you bring in genuine rule of law. Now, I'll give you an example. There's a fellow called Rod Blagojevich. How many people have heard of his name? You haven't? Okay. Rod Blagojevich was governor of Illinois State in the year 2008. Why 2008 was important is the senator from that state, what's his name? Barack Obama. He became president. Under the Illinois state law, until the next election, the governor has the power to nominate the senator from the state. And therefore, he was looking for suitable candidates. When you make an appointment, you try to make it political. It must help your party, it must help you. That's normal, right? There's nothing wrong with that. The governor's team were negotiating with some of the people who were seeking to be nominated. And they sent word that if you give a donation for election purpose by check legally to the political action committee of the governor, then probably there will be greater chance of your being nominated. He did not receive a single dollar of money. Even if it's received, it will be by check, a legitimate political contribution by law. But he did not receive it. You know what happened to Rod Blagojevich? And his party man, he was from the same party, Democratic Party. His party man became the president. It's his place that he's trying to fill. Rod Blagojevich was jailed for 8 years. He lost his governorship. His family became bankrupt. He was released by Donald Trump because Donald Trump is very, very partisan to people who are corrupt and who are jailed for that reason. So though from a different party, Donald Trump released him in 2019 or something. Until that time, he was in jail. That is the rule of law. You may be an elected governor of the state, but you cannot control crime investigation. You may be the president of the country, but you cannot control crime investigation. Are we anywhere near that? So, without fixing that, we are looking at some mortal and away. That doesn't work. I am the one who raised my voice against criminalization more than anybody else in the country. I released a list of 42 fellows contesting in elections with criminal record when you were probably not born or barely born, you were toddlers, in 1999. That sent shockwaves in the country. Then the matter went to courts. Then I was the one after court judgment who led the movement in the country and forced it as a mandatory disclosure requirement in 2003. But all this is not because I had any illusion that will change criminalization. It is a soft underbelly of politics. Therefore, to make the system recognize that there are serious challenges, let's do something about it. It's an easy way for me to rouse public opinion. I had never any illusion, unlike many others who pretend that you do something, it's changing the world. I don't have any illusions. Unless you understand the causality, the consequences, how do you do it? What is to be done? It will not help. So this is an easy way. No politician can argue with me about what is wrong with criminals being in politics. I am putting him on the defense. I am exposing the rot in the system. It's a symptom from medical parlance. It's not the disease. The disease is something different inside. This is a symptom. It's merely the pus you see. There's a different cause altogether. We must address the cause. And instead of addressing the cause, we look at the pus and say people are not simply opening it and draining off the pus and therefore they're bad fellows. So don't blame the people, because people are the victims in our dysfunctional democracy. They are not the villains. Don't make the victims the villains. It's wrong morally. It's wrong practically because it doesn't lead to a solution then. Your analysis must lead to a solution. Otherwise, leave this whole business of bureaucracy or government and go and become a sannyasi and give bhashams about morality. Get it?
Like and subscribe Eagle Media Works.